Hello everyone, welcome to session 2. In this session, I am going to discussing about eukaryotic cell, structure of eukaryotic cell. So dear students, which means true, karyotic means nucleus, which means presence of true nucleus or well-developed nucleus or well-organized nucleus. Andre, the nucleus is surrounded by nuclear membrane or nuclear envelope. Dear students, the eukaryotic cells include all protists, plants, animals and fungi. In eukaryotic cell, there is an extensive compartmentalization of cytoplasm through the presence of membrane-bound organelles, which means the organelles is bounded by membrane, and presence of well-developed nucleus or well-organized nucleus with nuclear envelope. In addition to the eukaryotic cells, presence of variety of complex locomotor in the cytoskeletal structure and presence of genetic material inside the nucleus which helps to formation of chromosomes. Dear students, I said about a eukaryotic cell, but all eukaryotic cells are not identical. All eukaryotic cells are identical. Onde tara irodilla. There is some little bit differences between cells. Okay. For example, we can observe here plant cell and animal cell. We can observe some differences between plant cell and animal cell. Before listing the differences between plant cell and animal cell, let's know about plant cell. See, the plant cell is rectangular in shape, and the outermost layer is cell wall, which is non-living in nature. Later we will discuss about cell wall structure and functions, and some little bit discontinuous of the cell wall is called plasmodesmata, which helps to connect the cytoplasm of neighboring cells. And next to the cell wall, presence of plasma membrane, and that plasma membrane is followed by semi-fluid matrix is called cytoplasm. The cytoplasm has membrane-bound cell organelles like nucleus, mitochondria, chloroplast, and also non-membrane-bound organelles like endoplasmic reticulum, that is a smooth endoplasmic reticulum and rough endoplasmic reticulum, and presence of Golgi complex and ribosomes and vacuoles. Especially here, the plant cell has central large vacuole is covered by the membrane that is called tonoplast, and presence of some peroxisomes and microbodies and crystals. Here the vacuoles, inside the vacuoles presence of crystals, which means calcium oxalate crystals. So these are all about plant cell. Next, let's discuss about the structure of animal cell. The outermost layer in animal cell, that is called plasma membrane. Then the plasma membrane is surrounded by semi-fluid matrix, that is called cytoplasm. The cytoplasm has membrane-bound cell organelles like nucleus, mitochondria, and also presence of non-membrane-bound cell organelles like Golgi complex and centrioles and endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and presence of lysosomes, ribosomes, like this. So these are all about animal cell. See, now let's list the differences between both plant cell and animal cell. See here, in plant cell, presence of cell wall, but here absence of cell wall in case of animal cell. And the shape of plant cell is rectangular in shape, and the shape of animal cell sometimes spherical in shape or irregular in shape. And we can observe here presence of chloroplast, but in case of animal cell there is no chloroplast, absence of chloroplast. And here we can observe in plant cell the nucleus present in peripheral side, but in case of animal cell the nucleus located in center part of the cell, and the number of mitochondria in plant cell is less, but in case of animal cell the number of mitochondria is more. The third one is, we can observe presence of large centered vacuole in plant cell, but here in animal cell presence of small vacuoles present in peripheral side. And there is no centrioles which helps in cell division. In plant cell there is no centriole, absence of centrioles, but in case of animal cells presence of centrioles. And here presence of crystals inside the vacuole, which means formation of calcium oxalate okay, inside the vacuoles, but here there is no crystals are absent. So these are all the differences between plant cell and animal cell. The next topic is cell membrane, is also called plasma membrane. The detailed structure of studied only after the invention of electron microscope in the year of 1950s. Meanwhile, chemical studies takes place on the cell membrane by some scientists, and especially in human red blood cells, which means RBCs, enable the scientists to deduce the possible structure of the plasma membrane. According to these studies, the cell membrane mainly composed of lipids and proteins. Yes, dear students, we know about lipids or any class of organic compounds, that is fatty acid, which is insoluble in water, and proteins are the building blocks of amino acids or chain of amino acids. Here, the major lipids are phospholipids. See, phospholipids, which means the lipids contain a phosphate group in its molecule, that is called phospholipids. These phospholipids arrange in bilayer, which means two layers, arranged in two layers, bilayer, which means two layers, and also lipids within the membrane with polar heads arranged towards the outside. So this is called polar heads. Polar heads. And hydrophobic tiles. Hydrophobic, which means water hating molecules. Hydrophobic tiles, or is also called non-polar tiles. Hydrophobic tiles arranged towards inner part or inside. Okay, we can observe here presence of polar heads to the outside and presence of hydrophobic tiles to the inside or inner part. So this ensure that the non-polar tiles or saturated hydrocarbons are protected from aqueous environment. Aqueous environment, which means water. I already told about hydrophobic, which means water hating molecules. Water hating molecules. And along with this cell membrane, presence of glycoproteins. Presence of glycoproteins. Later, the biochemical investigation clearly revealed that the cell membrane has proteins and carbohydrates. Proteins and carbohydrates. The ratio of proteins and lipids are vary in different cell types. For example, the red blood cells, human erythrocytes. That human erythrocytes made up of 52% of proteins and 40% of lipids. Depending on ease of extraction or fluid extraction, the proteins can be classified as integral protein and peripheral protein. Yes, in this picture we can observe here, so this is the peripheral protein and integral protein. Yes, the integral protein partially or completely buried in the cell membrane. The peripheral protein which lies on the surface of the cell membrane. Later, in the year of 1972, Singer and Nicholson, they improved the model of structure of the cell membrane that is widely accepted as fluid mosaic model. Yes, the scientist in the year of 1972, Singer and Nicholson. Singer and Nicholson, they improved the model of structure of the cell membrane, and that is widely accepted as fluid mosaic model. According to this model, the quasi-fluid nature of lipid, which means the semi-fluid nature of lipids, enable the lateral movement of proteins within the overall bilayer, and this ability to move within the membrane is measured as its fluidity. See, the fluidity of the cell membrane is very important for many functions like cell growth, cell division and formation of intercellular junctions and endocytosis and secretions and etc. One of the most important function of plasma membrane is transfer of molecules across it, which means it is permeable in nature. Permeable in nature, which means permit or allow the molecules. Permeable in nature, which means allow the molecules. Okay, transfer of molecules. Permit, which means allow the molecules. Many molecules can move briefly across the membrane without requirement of any energy. Is called passive transport. Passive, which means accepting. Okay, the many molecules move across the membrane without any requirement of energy is called passive transport, which means accept. Passive means accept. Passive transport. Passive transport. And also the neutral solutes, which means neither acidic nor basic, that is called neutral solutes. The neutral solutes can also move across the membrane by the process of simple diffusion along with concentration gradient, which means the molecules move from higher concentration to lower concentration. Even the water molecules also can move across this membrane by the process of simple diffusion along with the concentration gradient, which means from higher concentration to lower concentration. See, this movement of water by diffusion process is called osmosis. But the polar molecules cannot pass through this non-polar lipid layer. So this polar molecules requires the special protein, that proteins which allows the molecules or ions, that is called carrier proteins. That is called carrier proteins. So carrier proteins are the special proteins which allows the molecules or ions. So by the help of carrier proteins, so these polar molecules can move across the membrane, and a few molecules or ions transported across the membrane against the gradient, which means from lower concentration to higher concentration. The molecules move from lower concentration to higher concentration. See, this process is energy dependent process with the utilization of ATP. So this is called active transport. Example, sodium and potassium pump in cells. Sodium and potassium pump in cells. The next topic is cell wall. Yes, we know about cell wall. Cell wall is the outermost covering in plant cell, and it shows rigid structure, rigid in structure, and it is the outer covering for plasma membrane of both plants and fungi. Plants and fungi. See, the cell wall gives definite shape. Not only definite shape, it also gives protection from mechanical damage. Protection from mechanical damage, and also from infection. And it also helps in cell-to-cell interaction. Cell-to-cell interaction. And it provides barriers for undesirable molecules. See, I already told you about the cell wall is present in both plants and fungi. But the cell wall component is varies. For example, the plant cell wall. The plant cell wall components are cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin, lignin and protein. So these are all cell wall components in plants. But in algal cell wall, the algal cell wall components are cellulose and galactans and mannans. See, the galactans, cellulose and mannans both are all polysaccharides. So these are all the cell wall components in plant cell wall and algal cell wall. Now let's discuss the structure of cell wall. Generally, the plant cell wall is made up of three layers. One is primary cell wall and middle lamella. The third one is secondary cell wall. Yes, the first one is primary cell wall. See, the primary cell wall is the first formed cell wall. And it's made up of cellulose. And it also helps to capable of growth, which gradually diminishes after the cell mature. So this is all about primary cell wall. Yes, now we can draw the structure of cell wall. So this is the primary cell wall. And next to the primary cell wall, presence of secondary cell wall. Okay, see the middle lamella, which is present in junction between two cells. Andre ಎರಡು cells ಹೀಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅದರ ಮಧ್ಯ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ middle lamella ಇರುತ್ತೆ. That middle lamella it's made up of calcium pectate or magnesium pectate, which is act as glue, which helps to attachment of between cells. Okay, yes. So this is called middle lamella. And next to the primary wall, presence of secondary wall. So this is called secondary wall. Which is present towards the inner side of the cell, and the cell wall and middle lamella. The cell wall and middle lamella transferred by plasmodesmata. So this is called plasmodesmata, which helps to connect the cytoplasm of neighboring cells. Okay, see generally the plant cell wall is made up of three layered primary cell wall and middle lamella and secondary cell wall. The primary wall is the first formed cell wall. It's made up of cellulose and capable of growth, which is gradually diminishes after cell matures. And next to the primary wall, presence of secondary wall, which is present towards the inner side of the cell. And in between the cell, in middle, presence of middle lamella, middle part, which means ಎರಡು ಸೆಲ್ ಹೀಗಿದ್ರೆ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ middle lamella ಇರುತ್ತೆ. That middle lamella made up of calcium pectate and magnesium pectate, and which is act as glue between the two cells. And the cell wall and both the middle lamella is transferred by plasmodesmata, so which connects the cytoplasm of neighboring cells. Yes, dear students, in this session we have discussed about eukaryotic cells, plant cells and animal cells, and the differences between both the plant cell and animal cells, and to study the cell membrane, detailed structure of a cell membrane and fluid mosaic model proposed by Singer and Nicholson in the year of 1972, and cell wall structure and cell wall functions. In next session, we will discuss about endomembrane system. Thank you.